First, it was Missouri. Now many Kansas Republicans are champing at the bit to try and grow a Republican congressional seat there to please the president. The thing is, they've already tried to do this before, and it didn't work the way they wanted. This was a knockdown, drag-out fight in 2022, one we covered for weeks here on the broadcast. Republican lawmakers split up Wyandotte County into two districts for the first time in decades. They then tacked on more rural counties to the lone Democratic district, the Kansas 3rd, to try and unseat Democratic Congresswoman Sharice Davids. But she still took down Republicans twice at the polls. State Republican leaders fully expect and hope to do something before the start of the next session.
No one's going to lose their voice, no more than anybody in any other district that is represented by someone. And frankly, we all are represented by people of both parties. So I am not concerned about that. It's all wonky inside under the dome stuff. And in the end, people won't even be talking about it in the next election.
That's Senate President Ty Masterson, who thinks Republicans have enough votes here to force a special session on this. Remember, in Kansas, the legislature can do that without the governor with enough support. As for people not talking about it next year, in the election Republicans are actively working to pad, Congresswoman Davids has another take.
It is something that Kansas voters are thinking about. Do you or don't you have an elected official who thinks that voters should be choosing their representatives and not the other way around? It is a very basic premise. And at a minimum, they should be willing to share what maps they're considering.
Any real hit to Democrats in the 3rd would likely involve cutting into Johnson County, a move that even draws concerns from some Republican state lawmakers living there. Let's get to the heart of the matter with our roundtable of journalists. Please welcome back Zane Irwin, political reporter for the Kansas News Service, and KMBC 9 political reporter Michael Mahoney. Thank you both for being here. Again, Mahoney, it is important to point out Republicans really fought for the map that is in place now.
Right, and not long ago, just a couple of sessions ago, when the legislature reapportioned the maps after the 2020 census, they reduced the Democratic strongholds in Sharice Davids' third district and extended her out into some of the rural counties around greater Kansas City in hopes of making it more difficult for her to win. She still won by 10 points.
Yeah, and it's still on paper heavily favored Republicans.
Still on paper heavily favored Republicans, and there's still a lot of Republican voters in that 3rd district, and yet Davids proved to be resilient politically.
You heard her call out the Senate leadership in Kansas and say, at least show us the maps. You've been looking into at least the possibilities that we could see here. What have you found?
I've been hearing a lot of things. I've been fielding a lot of calls, but it still seems to be in the early stages. I don't know whether or not there are maps that are drawn. You know, anybody could draw for GOP heavy districts in Kansas. The question is there going to be the political will to do so? So I think right now what proponents of redistricting are looking at is sending out a petition for a special session to see if they can get it done that way.
Yeah, and the other thing about that is one of the cores of redistricting, obviously, is population reapportionment, and then trying to make safe seats either for Democrats or Republicans. In this case, in Kansas, Republicans. But any sort of a map, when it gets to the courts, they look at core community interests and whether or not a district reflects the community interest of that area. And splitting an area like Johnson County would be something I think that the courts would be really interested in seeing how a core of community interest remains intact if they do that. In other words, splitting Johnson County up because it's the largest economic engine in the state of Kansas might be problematic.
Right, and it has been proposed before. I mean, when they were looking at this before, we mentioned that there's some Republican consternation, at least among the lawmakers who are in Johnson County on this. What sort of hurdles could we face if this goes to special session?
Well, I think that they're going to have the Republicans, if they want to do this, either in a special session or in the general session in January, they're going to have to convince Republican legislators in Johnson County that this is in their best interest. And right now, that's not there. They don't have that consensus. Even some of the staunch conservatives in the Johnson County delegation are questioning whether or not this is a good idea.
That's absolutely right. And it's not just lawmakers in Johnson County that could feel opposed to this. I've heard that there is some consternation, as you said, among maybe the chambers in that area. You know, it's difficult if you're an interest group or any kind of stakeholder in an area to contend with two different congressional leaders. So if you're trying to split up Johnson County, as you said, the largest economic engine in the state, that's going to be difficult politically.
Mahoney, while I have you, I know in Missouri early voting is now underway for the recall election of County Executive Frank White. We'll talk more about the election next week, but anything standing out to you before then?
Yeah, there was a town hall meeting this past week that was broadcast on public television Friday night that had the proponents and the opponents to this. And surprising some was the fact that Frank White came to this meeting and defended himself, not only in the session where he called the recall effort a power grab, but he also stood for questions from reporters afterwards, which is something that White has not done. He also defended the fact that he doesn't go to a lot of the legislative meetings because he says, hey, look, the governor doesn't go to the legislature. He sends his designated people to committee hearings, and he likened the two situations to be similar here. So the fact that White came out and defended himself in that meeting was interesting. A lot of people didn't think he was going to show, that he would send a surrogate. You know, this vote is coming up on September the 30th, and the recall people feel good about their chances on this, but you never know. I mean, he's been in office for 10 years and been reelected in Jackson County a couple of times. So we'll see where it is.
All right, and we'll cover it a lot next week. Michael Mahoney, Zane Norwood, thank you so much. Count on KMBC 9 News and Heart of the Matter to watch developments in this redistricting when it comes to Missouri, Kansas, and beyond. Bring you updates on air and online at KMBC.com.